Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Erica Gallardo. I'm the Senior Director of Public Affairs for Communities and Schools of Central Texas. Thank you for joining us this evening. For more than 40 years, Communities and Schools of Central Texas has partnered with schools to surround students with relationships, resources, and opportunities they need to succeed in schools and in life. Every day, we work alongside educators, families, and community partners to remove barriers so that young people can focus on learning and reaching their full potential by embedding mental health clinicians in schools in Central Texas. We're ensuring that students' behavioral health needs are met regardless of their economic status. We're so grateful that you're here. We are especially grateful to welcome Councilmember Vanessa Fuentes. Thank you for your continued support of children, families, and the nonprofit organizations. Thank you for the support that help meet the needs of our community. We appreciate your willingness to listen, engage with community partners that champion and investments that strengthen the safety net for Austin families. And thank you all for being here again. For those of you who are Spanish speaking, I want to welcome you as well. Buenas noches a todos y bienvenidos. Mi nombre es Erika Gallardo, directora senior de Asuntos Públicos de Communities and Schools de Central Texas. Gracias por acompañarnos esta noche durante más de 40 años. Communities and Schools de Central Texas ha trabajado juntos con las escuelas, con los directores para ayudar a los estudiantes a tener las relaciones y las oportunidades que necesitan para tener éxito en las escuelas y en la vida. Trabajamos a diario juntos a educadores, familias como ustedes y socios comunitarios para eliminar barreras y ayudar a que jóvenes como ustedes puedan concentrar y aprender y alcanzar su máximo potencial. Además, al integrar a profesionales de salud mental en las escuelas del centro de Texas para que los estudiantes reciban el apoyo que necesiten sin importar su situación económica. Nos complace especialmente dar la bienvenida a la concejal Vanessa Fuentes. Gracias por su constante apoyo a los niños, a las familias que están aquí y que no están aquí, y las organizaciones sin fines de lucro que ayudan a nuestra comunidad. Valoramos mucho su disposición para escuchar, colaborar con los socios comunitarios y apoyar inversiones que fortalezcan los servicios y recursos para las familias de Austin. Otra vez, welcome y bienvenida, Council Member, Concejal Vanessa Fuentes.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. And just a quick round of applause to Communities in Schools for hosting us today. Thank you. We love partnering with our community partners. This is great. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Buenas noches. How are y'all doing tonight? Come on. Y'all made it out here to hear all about the City of Austin budget. It's going to be exciting times. I first just want to say it feels really good to be back at City Hall. Thank y'all so much for your support for me and my family. I am very pleased to have my little one, Vivian, here with us tonight. Oh, perfect. She's 3 months old, and we are getting her started early on her civic engagement journey. But just wanted to share my appreciation, and also want to acknowledge our Del Valle High School Cardinals Drumline, who greeted everyone as they came in. I'm a big supporter of the arts and our music community, so as y'all know, in our community events, we always like to have a little special performance, so we appreciate y'all coming in. Now I want to take a moment to acknowledge our community leaders that serve our district and on behalf of our district at the city. If you serve on a City of Austin board or commission, can you please stand to be recognized? These individuals make up our board and commission, so please give them a round of applause. They volunteer. Yes, thank you. They volunteer their time, so we really appreciate your service. And on that note, I do want to acknowledge we have some vacancies. So if you are interested, if you know someone who would be interested, we have openings on the Asian American Quality of Life Commission, the Zero Waste Advisory Commission, and the newly created Native American and Indigenous Quality of Life Commission. So yes, please let us know if you're interested. We also have volunteering with us today the following individuals: Abby Varela, Marsha Healy, Jovahana Avila, Rob Hare, and Luis Garcia. If we can give them a round of applause for volunteering tonight. A special thank you to our community partners. Part of us having events in our district is ensuring that we are doing all that we can to bring City Hall to you, to make sure that City of Austin is in our community. So I want to give a thank you to our partners today. We have Austin 311, Austin Parks and Rec, Austin Public Health, Austin Transportation and Public Works, Austin Homeless Strategies and Operations, our Capital Delivery Services, as well as the AISD Community Love Hub and Austin Resource Recovery. Can we also give them a round of applause for being here and providing their services and information? And do we have the new principal from Mendez here with us? Wanted to give them a shout out. And then last but certainly not least, want to thank our District 2 team for holding it down for us. Thank y'all for ensuring that we're able to put on this town hall. And especially thanks to Demesio for his service as constituent liaison. He had stepped up to provide support when we need it. And this is his last week with us. He'll be going back to Austin 311. So just also wanted to share my appreciation to Demesio. For today's, yes, thank you. He's out there. So a quick review of today's event. We are going to start off by doing some community announcements. So as soon as I'm done, if you'd like to join me up here, if you represent an organization or if you want to get a message out on behalf of your company, let us know. We want to hear what exciting event is coming up in the district. So we'll shortly do community announcements. Then we'll have the City of Austin budget presentation and followed by a Q&A. I also will share some District 2 updates so that you'll know exactly how me and my incredible team are delivering for you and what we've accomplished so far this year. And then we'll also do a live round of Q&A. So I hope that today is engaging and that we're able to have a meaningful conversation on the budget. It is the most important vote that I take as your representative. So I take the work very seriously, and I want to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your concerns, or even the things that you like that you see in the budget. This is the time for us to continue to have that conversation. Couple more housekeeping reminders. If you have any questions, be sure to write them on your question card that comes in your packet. That'll help facilitate the Q&A portion of our town hall. Also know in your packet we have printed out question and answers. These are questions that folks submitted on the RSVP form. My team makes it a huge priority to make sure that we're getting back to you on the questions you ask our office. So we print out the questions. You can see what others have submitted when they registered. And if we didn't get to your question, some of the questions we're waiting on staff input, we'll be sure to send an updated packet after the event. So now I'm going to turn it over to community announcements. I see our first one up, Ophelia Maldonado. You have our former AISD trustee has an important announcement to share.
Thank you. Well, we are getting all prepared and ready to receive Mendez back at Austin ISD. Yay! So the Community Love Hub is housed at Mendez, and it's an opportunity for all of you. You want to share some kind of gift or talent with our kids. We want to build a strong mentorship program, and we need lots of adults. We would like to have one for every student. We should be having about 400 to 600 students. So we want them to succeed, and they can't do it alone. So we will be having Eagle Camp on Friday morning, where we will be receiving all the students and the parents. And so you come out and welcome them and flow all that love into Mendez, because that is what's going to make us succeed. Everyone coming together and sharing that love with our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Other announcements? Anyone else have a community update? Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Paula with the Austin Public Library, the Southeast Branch, which is your guys' branch if you're in District 2. And we are across the street from Mendez and the Love Hub, and they're helping me host this little flyer I wanted to share with you, as well as the calendar of events for August. Just wanted to let you know that we do have computer classes, basic computer classes in English and in Spanish, and these are given out by Austrian Freenet. So if you know anybody that needs computer access, this is a great place to stop by. They take place on Mondays at 12:30. And there are basic classes and intermediate, but they determine who is an intermediate student. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Hi, I'm T.A. Vasquez, and at this time, I'm a community advocate. I did work my life prior to being a community activist was as a parent support specialist, lead organizer in AISD. Happily retired 6 years, and now I'm part of a group like this. I like to go and advocate for especially the students and our families, and I'm happy to be here. But I just, as a friendly reminder, school is around the corner, and this is another opportunity for you to play a role in your son, your nephew's schools, and so I encourage you to volunteer. There's different areas that you can volunteer in. You can be part of the Campus Advisory Council. You can be part of the District Advisory Council. And you can just normally just volunteer in the school, in the teacher's classroom, whatever. Go find out from your school where they could use you the most, where your interests lie. You know, let us know a little bit more about you and support your area schools. I am this year's PTA president at Palm Elementary, so I will be looking for you as a volunteer or to participate in any kind of groups that we have in our school to support our students. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll go up. Good evening, everyone. I am Lieutenant Colonel retired Joey Reyes. I represent Vanessa in District 2 in the Commission on Veterans Affairs. Are there any veterans in the room today? All right, thank you for your service. And then probably some of y'all have family members who are veterans, but I want to announce that on Saturday, November the 7th at 9, we will have the Austin Veterans Day Parade. It starts on the south side of Congress Bridge, up Congress, up to the Capitol, and then at 10 o'clock we'll have a resource fair for veterans, and also a ceremony at 11 o'clock. Again, that is Saturday, November the 7th, 2026. More information to follow.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Joey. Yes. Other community updates. And if you have an update, yes, please come join us up here. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Melinda Chow. I'm with Austin Youth Riverwatch. We run environmental education after school programs As you noted, a school is right around the corner. If you know someone in high school looking for a cool environmental education after-school program, send them to us. I have a few flyers here. In District 2, we work directly with Del Valle High School and also, I believe, Aikens High School. So the kids get to go outside. They learn about the river. They have a lot of fun. Also, we provide full transportation. They get fed dinner. They get a stipend. They get paid for being in our program, and they get to participate in a lot of fun outdoor adventures while they're learning. So come find us. It's me and Emma. We've got these blue shirts on, and we've got more information about the program.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Garcia. I work for Austin Parks and Recreation. I wanted to mention that on Saturday, August the 8th, from 9 to 12, George Morales Dove Springs Recreation Center will be holding their annual backpack giveaway, and that is a backpack with school supplies at the different age grades levels, plus vendors galore that just add to that stash for you. So remember, that is a free event, and you need to come out there or pass that on as if some of you are talking to parents and that are registering and stuff like that. Please come out. It's a great event. Thousands of backpacks are given away that day.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Alicia. I'm here with Farm Share Austin. Farm Share Austin's Fresh for Less program is our food access program. We have mobile markets in all of the zip codes in the District 2 area, and we offer home delivery for no service fee. We accept SNAP, double up food bucks. We have all of our prices are reduced. We have 15 to 20 produce items and 15 to 20 pantry items every week.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Now we're going to get to the reason why we're all here, and that's to learn all about the City of Austin budget proposal that is before council. And to help us with our presentation, we have our Director of Budget Office of Excellence, I believe, a little bit, Organizational Excellence, there we go, who will be guiding us through this year's budget. Please join me in welcoming Director Carrie Lang.
Thank you, Council Member, and thank you all for being here. I am Carrie Lang, the Director of Budget and Organizational Excellence, and I have with me one of my great team members, Blake Johnson, who tells me all the right answers when I don't know them. And so I will go ahead and get started and start walking us through the City Manager's proposed budget and answering, hopefully I'll be able to answer all your questions. As we start talking through this, I always start with the timeline. This timeline just walks us through when we start and what happens in the budget process. We show the March 31st date, but really, my team internally, we really start as early as the fall, thinking through the things that have happened in the previous budget cycle, what things we did well, what things we need to correct or do better. And then we do a kickoff internally with city staff, and we have that kickoff in January, talking through and getting the departments to start thinking through what their budgetary needs may be, what kind of expense growth they're having, and things that we may need to address in the next cycle. We also engage our boards and commissions. The city has over 80 boards and commissions, and we give them instructions to try to help get their input and their recommendations on what should be included in the budget process or in the next year's budget. And we ask them to turn those recommendations in by March 31st. Once they're turned in, they're given to the department staff to look at those recommendations, do an analysis, and give input on whether it's things that we already do or if there are things that we can do that we want to look at implementing or we can't do because we have some restrictions that people may not be aware of. This year we did a extra meeting with council in May where we kind of talked through some of their priorities to start thinking through priority setting before staff went away to start working on the proposed budget. That budget was presented on July 16th, And then we started having these conversations, town hall meetings. We have work sessions. We've had 2 of the work sessions already. There's one tomorrow, and there will be 2 next week before budget adoption, August 12th through 14th. So starting off talking about our budget, I always talk about the overall city budget, and this is the all funds, and that means we're looking at every fund that is part of the city's operating budget. We have an operating budget and we have a capital budget. And so the operating budget in our all funds is $6.6 billion. But that includes all of the departments and functions that the city operates day in and day out. If you look at this slide, you'll see that that $6.6 billion includes the city-owned utilities. So we own Austin Energy and Austin Water. They make up 43% of that total budget. The other major enterprises make about 18%. Our other major enterprises include the airport or aviation, convention center, resource recovery, transportation public works, as well as our watershed protection. And then we have the general fund, which is 22%. Followed by our internal services operations. When you see that internal services, think about things like our centralized HR department or the finance team, our facilities management, and our fleet. Those are our internal services. And then finally, we have our geo debt that's paying back the bonds and the debt that we've incurred as a city. And then finally is our other. That other includes small enterprise and special revenue fund. And so think about enterprises, small enterprises that could be how the HOT or the hotel occupancy tax comes in, or our economic development function. Those are included in those other expenses. Looking more closely at the general fund, this slide really shows both of our general fund revenue and our expenses. The inner circle focuses on the general fund revenue. The outer circle are the expenses or the departments that are included in the general fund. It is $1.5 billion in the proposed budget. That's about a $53 million increase over fiscal year 26. And when you look at our internal circle, the 4 revenue sources, we have 4 primary revenue sources. Property tax and sales tax make up 73.6% of our total revenue. As you all know, property taxes are real stable. We can pretty much project how much property taxes we're going to receive. Our sales tax is more volatile. It responds to the economy. And so with that being over about 26%, depending on how well sales tax comes in, that has a major impact on our general fund and the expenses and how we are balancing the general fund year over year. Looking more closely at our expenditures, the outer circle, the general fund is made up of 13 departments. Public safety, that's police, fire, EMS, they make up 64.7% of the general fund, followed by our community services departments, our parks and recreation, library, public health, arts, culture, music, and entertainment, and animal services. That makes up 21% of the general fund. Our housing, homeless strategy and operations, planning and social service grants total 7.1%. And then finally, transfers others. That includes the interlocal agreement that the city has with Travis County for intake services at the county jail. So it's a function where we work with them as we are booking people into the county jail. It's a payment to the Travis County, So now that I've talked a little bit about both our overall operating budget and our general fund budget, I'm going to talk through a couple of highlights. And these highlights that I'm talking through, we're looking at it based on the citywide strategic plan, our priority areas. And so I'll touch a little bit on both general fund and enterprise fund highlights over the next 2 or 3 slides. The first one that I'll focus on is the Parks and Recreation. There is $1.2 million in investments for maintaining our pools. We have 2 pools that were recently refurbished, Montopolis Pool and Sheffield Pool. And so there are operating costs with that upgrade that has happened to those pools, as well as maintenance dollars for parkland across the city. In our Watershed Protection Department, They're investing $1.3 million to support maintenance and operational needs. About 15 of those 18 positions will be for those operational maintenance vegetation needs, and then 3 of those positions are training and education within the department. In our animal services, we are including a safety position and one-time funding for safety and security upgrades at the Austin Animal Shelter. And then when we look in economic development and workforce development, we're seeing the Small and Minority Business Resources Department is receiving $70,000 for ongoing funding and support for their annual Connections Conference. This conference is where they bring in small and minority businesses with the city procurement teams, our partners at the state and county level, to talk through opportunities for business with government. And then looking at our convention center, there is continued funding and capital spending on the convention center expansion project. And I want to clarify that that project is primarily being supported through hotel occupancy tax. A lot of people think that when we say we're doing a convention center expansion, it is going to be a cost to the general fund, but it's not. It is funded primarily through our hot taxes that will support that expansion. So our next priority area that we'll talk about is high-performing government. That is really focusing on many of those internal services that I spoke about earlier, so finance, HR, our IT functions. And in our technology services department, we are anticipating $5.8 million of savings. Over the last year, maybe 15 months, we started an initiative that is called One ATS, where we are looking at how we are not only delivering IT services across the city for the organization, but what kind of applications do we have. And so we've discovered that we are currently have some duplication in our software application and how we've been delivering that service. And so we're working on One ATS, where we're pulling in staff to be a more centralized function, and also looking to reduce that redundancy in our software applications. Those efforts are anticipated to generate $5.8 million in fiscal year 27. Our city auditor's office is receiving $1.5 million to support the citywide efficiency audit that was part of a direction from council this past spring. And so they'll receive money to support that. And then our Human Resources Department is expanding their professional development and employee education program with $385,000. Moving forward to our homelessness and housing, we are funding local housing vouchers at $7.8 million in our housing department. And then we are also funding $6 million of permanent supportive housing wraparound services through our Homeless Strategy and Operations Office. Also in our housing department, there is $2.3 million of one-time funding for emergency rental assistance through the House Our People Endowment Fund, which we call the Hope Fund. Moving on to mobility and critical infrastructure, our airport, the aviation department, is continuing their work on their expansion project, and they have added 25 positions to support the areas that have already been expanded or are completion in fiscal year 27, which includes one of their garages. They're calling it the Yellow Garage. They're opening that up, and so they have operational needs there. Our Transportation and Public Works Department is continuing work on the corridor projects from the 2016 Mobility Bond. And then finally, our Facilities Management Department is adding positions to support the operations of 3 new facilities that have come online over the last couple of years. That is the Public Safety Headquarters, our University Park building, as well as the Grove Boulevard building. Within our public safety function, we have our fire department. They are receiving 32 new positions to support the new Austin schedule that will go into effect in October of 2027. And they are receiving $6 million of overtime funding to make sure there's enough funding to maintain the 4-person staffing. In our emergency medical services, our EMS department, we have $500,000 for overtime funding needs as they continue their cadet training to offset the cost of a field training officer going and training the cadets. There are overtime needs that are needed for that. And then finally, in our development services department, we have in development services, it's made up of two funds. There's the development services fund that focuses on development and how those dollars are responding to development activity. And then there's the code fund that ensures code compliance across the city. And that code fund, that code side of development services, is receiving 7 new positions to implement and establish the graffiti abatement program on a permanent basis. This was a pilot program that was put together to support addressing graffiti on private property, and it has been a success, and so they're making that a permanent function of the code side of development services. And so this slide is a slide that we typically show after we've talked about the general fund, the investments that are being made in the general fund, and the impact of that. When we do our budget every year, I think I mentioned we start in April with a financial forecast, giving a high-level review of what we anticipate our revenue growing at compared to our expenditures. And then when we come back and do the proposed budget, we update that forecast based on the numbers that we have for the proposed budget. And in 2025, fiscal year 25, when the city manager joined us, we began not only balancing our proposed budget, but also balancing that next budget, which we call the planned year. And so you'll see here that fiscal year 27 and 28 are both balanced, and then we start seeing a surplus in fiscal year 29 through 31. That surplus is primarily driven by the anticipated savings that we think we'll see through the One ATS initiative. As we really reduce the duplication of software applications, look at a more centralized function of our IT services, we believe that will begin generating a good amount of money year over year worth of savings for the city. And then this slide here is really talking through, as we look at not only our general fund, the property tax bill, but also the rates and fee changes that are anticipated with our major enterprise departments. This shows the impact to who we call the typical rate and taxpayer. It is projected to increase 6.1% in fiscal year 27. That's $28.83 per month, which equates to about $346 a year. And then when you look at the bottom line, which is our property tax, which is a portion of that, that is anticipated to increase annually about $174. This slide tells you what the definitions are for each of the rates that are being changed, and it shows the different departments that have those rates that impact the typical rate and taxpayer. So all that conversation was about our operating, what we do to operate day in and day out as a city. We also have a capital budget. That capital budget is to support large capital infrastructure changes or investments. And so when you see this slide, you'll see that the planned spend, we do a 5-year spending plan for our capital each year. And the planned spend for fiscal year 27 is $4.2 billion. But when you look at this chart, you will see that 80% of our planned spend for next year is based on our large enterprise department's planned CIP. That means you'll see our aviation department, $100 billion is what they plan on spending on the airport expansion project. Austin Energy has about $1 billion of planned spending for transmission, distribution, and power production projects. Water is continuing to work on their Walnut Creek wastewater treatment plant updates, and that's $652 million. And then the convention center expansion is estimated at $642 million spend. That other 20% that you see there is a breakdown of a number of different departments that have smaller planned spending. Our Transportation and Public Works, I mentioned them earlier, that's part of the 2016 bond work that they're going to focus on. And then we have our fleet mobility services that is upgrading some of our fleet, our vehicles for the city, and so that's included in our capital funding. And they're also, along with Austin Resource Recovery, completing the Northeast Service Center that will give them more space and upgrade to maintain and work on the city's fleet. And so that is an overview of both our operating and our capital budget. Again, we have continued conversations with council. They will deliberate tomorrow on the 30th. It is also the public hearing on the tax rate. That public hearing begins at 3 o'clock. If you're interested in speaking to council, you need to sign up by 9 a.m. to be able to participate in that public hearing. But there will be discussions on the budget. I think tomorrow we're speaking specifically to public safety and high-performing government. And then there are two other work sessions on the 4th and the 6th, followed by budget adoption August 12th through 14th. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions or turn it back over to the council member.
Great, thank you. She's making her way all throughout the districts. As she mentioned, she will be presenting tomorrow before council, so we're probably about to lose her here in the next few minutes. But before she leaves, I want to see if anyone has any technical policy questions on the budget. If there's a program you want to know about, now would be a good time to do so we can ask directly to Director Lang the question. And if my team can come in and help facilitate as well, that'd be helpful. Question is, what would the savings be should public service positions were filled versus overtime?
Is this public safety, police, fire, EMS? Well, it's interesting that you asked that. Because with the public safety departments, it is a balance of budgeting their full positions. So we budget for their full strength. But we also calculate what we call vacancy savings, which is a budgeting tool that allows you to make adjustments to a budget based on the historical vacancies that a department has had. So we budget for the full amount, and then we put a negative in there for the vacancies they've had. So if you use police, for example, we budget for their full strength of 1,800 police officers. We then put a negative into their budget of about $30 million to offset the 320 or so vacancies that they have. So if you ask what savings there is no savings because we plan for that. We already make that adjustment year over year based on the vacancies, based on their planned strategies to staff those positions. And we also, I got somebody giving me tips over here. We also balance that with their overtime budget. And so it's a balance between the personnel budget. If the position is filled, we fully fund it. If it's vacancies we anticipate, we take that negative, we give that credit, and then we include overtime costs that is pretty much offset by that vacancy. And so it's a play between those three areas to make sure that that budget is balanced year over year.
Two-part question. One, I saw on the public safety a big focus on policing and EMS. What is the proposed budget doing for preventing violence? So like community violence intervention and victim services, how is that baked into the proposed budget? And my second question is, the big beautiful bill cuts are coming this fall, and what steps is the budget taking to deal with the Medicaid cuts and the SNAP cuts specifically?
So when you look at the city's budget, you'll see a couple of places. There is some budget within our police department to respond to violence prevention, as well as in our public health department. We have funding through our social service grants to support those efforts. Now, in the budget, there are planned reductions to our social service grants. In the proposed budget, about $5 million of planned reductions across the social service grants. And it's a little bit nuanced because it's $3 million that we're moving over to one time for a full $8 million impact. But that's spread over several different focus areas and incrementally amongst different contracts. And so we have some contracts that are focused on violence prevention. We would have to go into detail, and actually a memo went out today to look at the detailed contract changes to see what those full funding projections will be for fiscal year 27. And then you asked about how we responding to the big beautiful bill. I think the city has been challenged with responding to grant changes in recent years and making adjustments to how we provide services based on whatever changes are coming from the federal and the state level. Today, we haven't received any notice of any impact to direct grants from the city, from the federal government to the city. And I think what we would continue to do is make sure we're focusing on the services that we have been focusing on as a city, whether it is our services through our WIC program, our services through our basic needs social service contracts, the things that the city just does as part of our ongoing operational impacts that we have control over. That's what we'll continue to focus on.
I would just add, as we queue up the next question, what part of my concerns with this budget proposal is the cuts to our social safety net, knowing that there are federal impacts at play here. We know when I was talking to FarmShare here before we started, and they're going to see cuts to their Fresh for Less program, which is providing fresh produce to low-income families, and knowing that we have families who are losing their SNAP benefits, and then they might potentially be losing this other program, it's going to compound the impact that we have, and our most vulnerable are going to feel it the most, and that to me is deeply concerning. So just know that there is a proposal to cut $8 million in social services, and that will be part of what me and my colleagues will be deliberating over the next few weeks, is where can we identify other forms of cost savings in the budget so that we can restore those cuts.
Well, thanks for you just mentioned what my question was going to be about those proposed cuts. So I appreciate you taking the time to review that and see how we could restore, especially when AISD is having to make huge cuts as well. Parent supports being reduced to 30% from 50%. It's going to hurt. Also, some youth employment, that was a way to help our kids stay connected in the pathway to, their future dream job. So I appreciate you taking the time to review what we could restore. Thank you.
In the current projections or recommendations from the team, the parent support specialist grant to AISD remains whole. There is no reduction to that grant, and so right now that is one of the maintained contracts.
Helpful. A win. There we go. Positive.
Hey, Carrie, I have a question here from the audience. It says, how much money has the city waived in tax breaks to developers in the past year or 2 years?
I wish I had the answer to that question. I know there were a lot of claps to that. I don't have that detail. I don't know. But we can make it a budget question and get what that response is.
How much of the operating budget is dedicated to Project Connect, and how much of our property taxes go to Project Connect?
So Project Connect gets about 8% of the total property taxes, and I'm gonna ask Blake to look up what that exact number is. And so what happens is, as those property taxes come in, it goes directly to what we call the Project Connect Fund, and is sent to Austin Transit Partnership to manage the operations of the Project Connect dollars. So even though the city collects it because it is part of property taxes, it immediately goes to the Project Connect Fund for those operational needs. And I will get you the number quickly.
I looked at it this afternoon. I think it's about 196 million.
That sounds about right. About 196 million. is what goes over to the Project Connect. 194 million goes to Project Connect.
The next question here says, why so low of a percent of our budget going to to social transportation or public transportation, transit? I think this needs an upgrade. Do you want to talk to, because I don't think the city provides any direct services, right? As far as transportation? Just in general.
So Capital Metro gets a different percentage. So if it's to Capital Metro, no, we don't provide. They have their own. They get part of sales tax, I think 1% of sales tax. And so we do not provide funding to Capital Metro.
How is the Dog's Head Tours going to affect the general fund given the cuts it will take to provide police, fire, and EMS services? And when will they take effect?
Y'all are giving me tough ones today. But I will say when the Dog's Head calculations were completed by my colleagues in financial services, that annexation and that project does include funding to ensure police, fire, and EMS services are available. So there's no reduction in the funding for that. It is all included in some of the calculations when it is time to start adding those services in the out years.
This says, as property taxpayers, we sent $800 million to the state. Have there been discussions or plans in the budget to sue the state like Midland ISD? I believe this is talking about AISD recapture.
Yes, this is AISD recapture, and I know there have been ongoing conversations with school districts. I don't know what their plans are.
Okay. How will the city continue to protect marginalized communities without increasing police presence in historically people of color communities with the increase of funds for APD and public safety? So how will they continue to protect marginalized communities without increased police presence?
That's right. Before I answer, let's give a round of applause to Director Lang for joining us tonight. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow at City Hall. Yes, that is the question we have before us, before council, is how do we ensure that we're serving our communities in a way that reflects our values? And as I shared earlier, I'm very concerned with the cuts to our social services. I think at a time that we're in right now, especially with violence on the rise and throughout the country, we should be investing in programs that work. And we know that investing in programs that ensure the basics, like housing, food, navigation services, education, those are the parts of society that I believe our city can and should be investing in. And so we'll be having a holistic conversation on what that means when it comes to public safety, because public safety includes our first responders, and it also includes investing in the basics that ensure stabilities for our families. So, thank you. Now I want to go through our District 2 updates, and so y'all can hear a little bit about what we have been doing, what our team has been doing for you on behalf of our community, and what we've been delivering on so far. And yes, that's right. We'll continue Q&A. I just wanted to make sure that we were respectful of Director Lang's time. So a few of our policy wins thus far this year includes public land for the public good. This was a policy proposal I brought forward knowing that we had several school districts throughout our region that have school closures, and understanding how schools are located in the nucleus of our communities, and they're centrally located. And I was concerned about what would happen when schools are forced to sell their properties, what happens to those properties. And so it was important for me to ensure that the city of Austin was being a good partner to our local school districts. And this passed on council. I will tell you, the school district did not like this policy, and certainly, I didn't know at the time the significant deficit that the school district was in, over 180 million, I believe, what we came to find out. But that kind of spoke to my concern. I don't want our schools to go to the highest bidder, because our schools have been forced in a corner on their budgets because, as was mentioned earlier, a lot of our local taxes go first to the state and they get redistributed across the state for public schools. So it's a huge issue. But for me, this policy, I had Whiteane Elementary in mind. It was one of the schools that closed. And so that's one that I want to ensure we have a community-driven process. And I really would love for the city to partner with the school district in ensuring that Whiteane remains a community use. So a little bit on that. And then on the parks side, we've had a lot of big wins when it comes to parks for our South Austin and Southeast Austin communities. Of note, Armadillo Park mural. You may have noticed the old water tank mural or old water tower is getting a incredible mural, and it's already underway. The artist is currently painting on it, and so I'm excited to see that happening for South Austin. Shout out to the artist Bill Travis, who is leading that work, Tavis, Bill Tavis, and so we're thrilled to see a little bit of art come to the Armadillo Park area. Also of note, we have Onion Creek Orchard. This is a community-driven project. I don't see Susan Willard here with us today, but she has been front and center in leading that program, and it will bring an orchard to our community near the Perez Elementary. So we're talking about fruit trees and pathways and seating, and it's really going to be an incredible resource for us, and is a nod to the historic floods that happened in our community. So I'm really thrilled to see that neighborhood partnering program move forward, and shout out to Susan for leading that. East Williamson Greenbelt Trail now features new walking and running trails, as play spaces and picnic tables. So that officially open. It's an exciting trail and accessible near Brasseywood. We also have a new park in the Park Ridge area. The Park Ridge Neighborhood Park includes an off-leash dog area, shaded playground, grills, and more. And moving along to the east side of the district, we have the Onion Creek All Abilities Playground. I'm super excited about this playground. It is for all ages and all abilities, so especially important for families with disabilities. They'll have a playground to go to right here in Austin. Right now, the closest All Abilities playground is in Round Rock. So this is huge for our city, and it's huge for our district. And so I'm thrilled that is breaking ground next year. Grand Meadow Neighborhood Park is a community-led initiative, years in the making, and it is celebrating its grand opening later this fall. So also just wanted to give a special recognition to them because that work is underway. Yes. And then moving along to transit and I love it. We love our parks, right? Yes. Moving along to transit and road safety, this is huge in our community. We have a lot of construction activity happening all across our district, so I wanted to make sure that we gave you all the latest because I view this as a huge part of how our team delivers for our community, is ensuring that we're making these upgrades and safety improvements for our neighborhoods. But it is painful. I do want to acknowledge I am with you sitting in the traffic as these projects are underway. We have 3 construction projects along East William Cannon. It is not ideal to be having 3 construction projects right now. I have let the city administrations know. So yes, part of the reason, just so y'all know, when I press them on timing is because school is out, the city wants to get these projects underway and completed to a significant extent, and so they're taking advantage while there's low traffic activity, and that's why the timing of it is right now. I know it still doesn't make it any less worse, but just wanted to add that context. For Slaughter Lane and Old Lockhart Road, this is one of our most dangerous intersections. We've had significant, serious incidents happen there. It's right near the Idea Bluff Springs School. Very happy that we now have a signal there. So just wanted to say that was years in the making. We finally have a signal at that intersection. We are working on a permanent signal. That is something that we'll keep pressing for, but just wanted to include that as an update. The Goodnight Ranch Park and Ride is also now open and available. That is the southern part of the southeast of the Rapid 800 with Cat Metro, and that's a transit route connecting it's east of 35, and it's along Pleasant Valley, and it'll be a 10-minute transit route. So know that that's an exciting upgrade for our community, and the park and ride is now available. For the William Cannon projects that I talked about, I do want to acknowledge specifically what is going on with them. The Bluff Springs area, so the intersection by the HEB, that is getting some pedestrian improvements, and that work will continue through the fall of 2026. Is that right? That's what my note says. But I think that was for the overall William Cannon project. So the east side of William Cannon near McKinney Falls, that is where we're getting a roadway expansion. It's also where we're getting 2 signals at Janes Ranch and Springfield. There's a lot of activity in that area. The signals, I've been told, should be completed by the end of August. The overall part of the eastern end of William Cannon will be through October of this year. So know that will still be a couple months out, but it'll add some much needed safety improvements. Okay, let's see. Also wanted to mention what we're doing for Austinites of all ages. I do feel very strongly that the city should be doing more for older adults. I led a policy initiative specifically for and centered on older adults, and I'm pleased to see some of the work already in motion. We had a senior fraud prevention PSA created by the city, and that has been shared out. We know that many of our older adults are falling victim to fraudulent practices. People are taking advantage of them, both online and via phone. So I believe the city should be doing more in creating awareness of how easy it is to fall victim, and just how we have bad actors taking advantage. And so we've had that go out. The city also had its first ever senior resource fair happen back in May. And so those are a couple of the ways that we are making sure that Austin is inclusive no matter your age. Moving along to displacement prevention, we want to make sure that people who have roots in Austin, who have shaped our city, have a home in our community. Years ago, I championed an initiative around displacement prevention navigators. It started out as a pilot program. It was based in Dove Springs, and it was with people from Dove Springs that helped provide information around resources available specifically on housing. The city has services and has programs, but people don't know about it. So we got to make sure that people are connected and they're able to learn about the programs. That's why the navigators are so key. It is now past the pilot phase. It is a permanent program of the city, and it has expanded. It's not only in Dove Springs, but also now in the in the Colony Park area. That is another initiative that we're happy to see expanded and continuing. Now, y'all heard from Director Lang on the budget and what to expect from it. I wanted to make sure that we took a moment to talk about what specifically is in the budget that is in our community. So on this huge $1 billion budget, general fund budget, what is in our community that you should know about? And so I wanted to take time to call out the D2 related projects. For Brasseywood area, we have continued funding to upgrade the storm drain system and retention pond. This will help reduce the risk of flooding in our homes and our yards and our streets. So very pleased to see funding for phase 2 included. Also want to give some love to the Onion Creek Trail. This is an exciting new trail that will connect Onion Creek Metro Park to McKinney Falls Park. And so that's another wonderful investment to our green space and outdoor access that is coming to our district. The budget also includes improvements to the Williamson Creek Greenbelt Greenbelt Trail, including hiking trails, landscaping, signage. Moving further on to the district, Ross Road, also undergoing a lot of construction activity in Del Valle. There is funding to continue the safety improvements of Ross Road, including expanding it to 4 lanes, upgraded traffic signals, improved drainage. For the Stasny-Metopolis area, there is funding for that particular intersection for safer crossings and upgraded bike and pedestrian treatments. The Bergstrom Spur Urban Trail, it's an exciting trail for South Austin. It's going to connect east to west. There is funding to continue constructing the trail. It's along an old rail line, and we broke ground on it last year, and so funding to continue to bring the central and east portion of the district to get that into motion. And then last but not least, on housing, we have funding for the continued construction of the 38 affordable homes through Austin's Community Land Trust. You probably heard me talk about this is the largest land trust in our city, and it'll be right here in District 2. So funding is included for that continuation. If you have questions, be sure to write them down. My team will be picking them up here shortly, and we'll move through the Q&A portion. As I go through the last section of my presentation, which is talking about, okay, you know what's in the budget that is D2 specific, what is our office priority when it comes to the budget. And so I wanted to take a moment to talk through some of our budget priorities. And note this is a continuing and evolving list. We still have budget hearings going on, so people are providing feedback to council. And so we are evolving our priorities based on feedback we received during those hearings, and of course, during today's town hall, and that we've received via email as well. So first and foremost is preserving social services. I've talked about the impact that this has in our community, and I'm very concerned about the proposed cuts. We now look at the budget for this year and have a second year outlook, so we know that it's about $17 million worth of cuts to our social service safety net over the next 2 years, with $8 million being for this year. And so I want to make sure that our families are safe, that they're fed, and that they have programs to go to and enjoy. There are a lot of youth programs that are on the chopping block, and a lot of violence intervention and prevention programs that are also seeing cuts. So I want to so that'll be first and foremost a priority that we dig through in the coming weeks. Also priority is our employee wages. Very pleased to see that the manager did include a cost of living increase for our city workers. This is important because we want to make sure that the city of Austin continues to be an employer of choice and that we remain competitive, because we need the people to be in the job so that the city can provide those high quality, consistent, reliable services. So ensuring that wages keep up with the rise in insurance premiums, with inflation, gas prices, grocery prices, all of this has gone up, and we have to make sure that we are adjusting for our employee wages. And next, also looking at funding or ensuring that we're restoring funding for rental housing assistance. We know that there are a lot of renters, not only in our district, but across the city, and this is a lifeline for many families, and we want to invest in programs that work and that keep people from falling into homelessness. So having rental assistance available and funded at the level that we need it to meet the need of the community is important. So that's another area that we will be digging into. Okay, so with that, now we'll toss it over to see what questions y'all might have for me.
All right. David asks, why is Project Connect not displayed in the budget, and are there other commitments that are also not displayed in the budget? It says, why is Project Connect not displayed in the budget?
So if you want to dig into the details of Project Connect, we can certainly send you a link. We want to make sure that the funding and how Project Connect is funded and where specifically it's going to is available to you. So certainly, David, know that we will send you that link so you can see it. The Project Connect has its own governing board, the Austin Transit Partnership. They have regular meetings, and I'm sure they also deliberate and have more detailed conversations on what they do with their portion of funding. I think they mentioned it earlier.
I think I can appreciate the complexity of Project Connect itself. I was just curious, this is the first time it was brought to my attention. that it's not included in the budget summary. So as we try to educate the community to where the dollars come in and where they go out, I found it interesting when someone asked about it, drew attention to the fact that it's not included there. So the question isn't, how is that money utilized? That's, that's its own conversation. But why is it not displayed in the transparent budget presentation to the community? And are there other substantial budget commitments that are also just not being displayed? And maybe there's good reasons. I was just curious to that.
Okay. Well, we'll check in with city staff to see if we can put some information online to make it more transparent. We want to make sure that it's as easy as possible for folks. So that's good feedback. Thank you.
And I think if I could add, when the city and the county put out the county tax bill, it lists everything, all of the taxes that are being collected and all of the different entities it goes to. Like Capital Metro, for example, it's not part of the city budget, but they get a line of sales tax. The city budget also doesn't include like the AISD portion of your tax bill. There are several portions of the tax bill that aren't the city's portion. They're dedicated to other entities. Stan asks, what does the city do to protect home values? My home value went down by 20% in 2 years. This is all while the city continues to increase property taxes.
So certainly we have a program. It's our home repair program. It's available for families who qualify, and it's a great way to do upgrades in your home, either a roofing repair that is needed, or perhaps you need to install a ramp on your porch. You can make those repairs, and this is a financial assistance program for to help. And I believe that's a great way to help with the valuation of your home.
Isaac asks, what can I do to advocate for social services for our neighbors?
Yes, great question. Well, in your packet, I believe in the timeline that Director Lang had up earlier, there's a list of upcoming public sessions where you can go to City Hall and advocate in person, or you can call in and provide your testimony as to why you believe these services are important to the city. You can also email or send us a message on social media, whatever is easiest for you. There are plenty of ways to advocate, and now is the time. We are actively deliberating the budget.
This is an anonymous question. How can City Council keep approving more housing projects that our infrastructure can't support, like roads that need to be improved before housing is built?
Wait, so know that part of our consideration when rezoning requests come in, right? So the city say, we don't have a say in a private development if someone wants to renovate their home, but if for large scale projects that require a rezoning before council, those are the considerations that we make. Do we have the necessary infrastructure? Will this housing development and housing project bring in the needed infrastructure? And sometimes with that development, it's able to come faster. But I hear you. There is a need for us to be balanced in ensuring that we have the infrastructure that responds to the needs of our city today, but also plans for the future, right? We know we are a growing city every day, every year. There are more people moving into Austin. So we really want to make sure that we are investing accordingly.
Let's see. Silver asks, the animal services, does that include training for service animals, or is that only in the private sector?
Oh, that's a good question for Director Lang. We'll have to get back to you. I don't know. I would say unless it's a specialty program that the department, no, it doesn't seem like.
Sorry, I used to be a furry manager, and it is very difficult to do a actual training with animals within the shelter, because no matter what you try to do, and our animals get pretty good lives. After about 2 weeks in a shelter, they're in the highest stress level they can be in. So whatever training can happen is very, very minimal. If you can't get that dog out of that stress level, they're not really in what they call a learning zone. So, and it's very, very difficult to get funds to train dogs that,
they need to find a home for them, and they can't provide training for all the dogs, unfortunately.
Claire asks, can you say more about how to protect against cuts in immigration legal services?
Yeah, so that's another, very concerned about ICE activity in our city and across the country. That's when I referenced the violence happening in our country. That specifically is what I had in mind. We are being vigilant, and I'm looking at you, Monica, but you're not clear. We're being vigilant as to what specifically is being cut in social services. We've asked for a detailed list of what contracts are being considered, but even, and this is why conversations like today matter, they're getting reported to us as one broad category, but I'm having conversations, including the one we had earlier with Farm Share, that the way it's actually getting administered is different than the category line item that we're getting presented to council. So we have to be vigilant when it comes to the proposed cuts, and certainly immigration legal services is part of that. And so just know that those conversations are continuing.
Kelly asks, from your perspective, how can we tackle the deferred maintenance on our parks, given budget constraints and probably staffing issues? Do we need to focus on low maintenance green spaces versus upkeep at outdated, costly facilities? And are you concerned about the safety of facilities that aren't being maintained?
Yes, most definitely. And I know that the city manager has done a lot in consolidating maintenance needs across the various city departments and enterprises, and now we have a facilities management, we don't have it now, but it's always been there, but he's added additional, there's been additional consolidation of facility maintenance requests in an effort to be more efficient with our dollars, to have them stretch wider to address our overall needs, because we know that you can't just defer maintenance for too long, because it's going to cost at some point, and the longer you wait, the more it will cost. So we have to every year ensure that we're maintaining our facilities and our parks. The challenge is when you have to balance the budget, and you have to prioritize where is the highest and best use of your dollars. We are exploring other types of financing mechanisms for our maintenance requests. One of them being certificate of obligations for our large scale facilities, park maintenance facility being one of them. Currently, how we fund maintenance upgrades for something like that would go to the voters to vote on. And I think it's a question of, our community knows we've built this building, they approved us having this building. Do we have to go again to ask for funds to maintain it? Or can we fund it through another public financing tool, right? So we're not waiting to the next election to start on those upgrades. We're actively doing it throughout the year. So just note, yes, it is a balance of policy, and that is a consideration.
Lastly, we have two questions. They're both about Dog's Head, so I'm just going to read all of this, and then you can respond. Let's see. It says, why should taxpayers commit hundreds of millions of dollars in TERS-backed public infrastructure before the city completes comprehensive environmental review and meaningful community engagement? What is the urgency that justifies putting all of this ahead of those analyses? And then the other question relatedly is, who wrote the development plan, the contract for Dog's Head, and why are there so many exceptions for city regulations and community values, such as environmental protections, labor standards, and lack of notice to residents?
Good questions. I know the conversation around Dog's Head largely took place during my maternity leave, so I was not around for the policy considerations, and can't really speak to what extent did council press on the issues that have been raised. But I can tell you that the greatest leverage that council had was back in May during the conversation on the development agreement, right? That's when the council should have demanded more and expected more of that proposal. So, me and my team will be digging into the details of the Dog's Head agreement. It will come back to council in March or May of next year. And so now I will be able to get up to speed as to the amendments that were incorporated into the TERS that was passed, the TERS being a tax investment zone, reinvestment zone. So yes, we will continue to press. The one thing that I know of note that council passed was a comprehensive needs assessment was committed to as part of that development. And that's going to be key for that area. We want to make sure that the city does everything that it can to know what are the specific needs so that we demand more of the developer, right? And so that is important, and it's important to our district, particularly for the Richland Estates neighborhood, who is the closest neighborhood to the Dog's Head zone. So know that we will be digging into that area.
And then the question about the infrastructure and the dollars in the TERS, like how is that justified? I know you spoke a little bit to it.
Okay, repeat the question.
How does the city justify the reinvestment of public dollars in the TERS?
Right. So part of establishing the TERS is ensuring that that we have the public infrastructure needed for what that development will be. The developer will be paying for the infrastructure as it is built. So I'm talking about utility lines, roads, stormwater retention ponds, and because of that, they will be front-ending the cost of the public infrastructure of that area, and then the city will be reimbursing them based on the taxes generated from that development. So that is how the infrastructure will be funded. I think part of what I believe the person asking the question is getting at is, how are you balancing the infrastructure needs of the area? And that to me goes back to the community needs assessment that we need, because in order for me to hold the developer accountable and ensure that we are doing right by the infrastructure needs of the area, we have to have that assessment first. Does that answer the question? Okay. Yes, and last but not least, please fill out the feedback survey that is before you. That is how we continue to improve the community events that we provide as a team. We value your feedback, and just want to thank you for spending time with us. We really appreciate y'all. Thank you to our District 2 team and to our community partner for hosting us. Thank y'all.